Morning, lumberjacks and lumberjills. I know everybody out there has been asking me how I get my chainsaw so sharp. Honestly, I'm cheating. I've said this before in a few other videos, but I'm going to say it again. This Granberg file joint, you can see the model number right there. So if you look that up on Amazon, Google, eBay, anything like that, or you click the affiliate link in my video description if I put one there, you can get yourself one too. And they're only like, it depends on when you get it from. Some people sell them between $14.99 all the way up to $39.99. And after I did the first video, I noticed a huge price increase, probably because the cheaper ones went out of stock because people bought them. But I believe I paid $25 for this one. And I got my last one for free from a friend of mine. And it's been the best sharpening system by far I've ever used. I mean, I use the Timberline Pro, which is like a $200 sharpening system with a Dremel bit and blah blah blah, carbide tip, yeah, bunch of junk. It cuts in from the back of the tooth, and it gets the saw sharp. Like, okay, so if you're a homeowner or if you're like a tree service company and you don't have a lot of hand filing experience, or you don't need your saw to be like extremely sharp, and the Timberline Pro is probably going to be a very good sharpener for you, especially if you're going to have access to like a bench vise or something, because it doesn't really work good in the woods. I used it a couple of times, and you can make it work. Like if you work in the woods and you know you've been through this whole spiel of breaking your chain or hitting a rock or something, and you really need to clean it out, it works, but it's not the best. I personally don't like it. But this Granberg file joint's my favorite. So, little cheat sheet. If you guys are wondering, I wasn't sure if I was going to say this, but, all these guys out there think that, like, it's some big super secret, like, what their file angle is at, and they don't want to tell people because they're afraid that, like, somebody's going to cut as good as them or something. I don't know. It's no secret to me. You guys can see here, I'm running a 30-degree angle this way, and 0 across the chain. Now, if you look at the back of the chain box, I think it recommends like a 5-degree angle slope and a 35-degree angle tooth. Fuck that. Honestly, it's not gonna cut as good as this. This works great in the wintertime if you want to go 25 and 0. I go 30 and 0 in the spring, and then I bring the 5-degree angle in the summer. It's kind of like the trees cut different when they're pulling sap, when they're frozen, and when it's really hot and dry. So I'm going to go ahead and file this up, and if you guys want to watch, I'm going to post this video, and hopefully it helps you out. So this one was cutting crooked earlier, so I'm taking 10 super light swipes off of it just to get that like angle out of it. So what happened is when I hit the dirt, it took my tooth and it took my cutting edge and curled it right over just a tiny bit, but enough to make it so it cuts crooked. So I'm just going to take and clean that out and make sure it's sharp. See, as you can tell, I'm not even putting really any pressure on it. I'm just letting the file do the work. And some of these really aren't that bad. Like, I clearly only hit it with a few teeth, but you gotta go even on all the teeth, because if you don't, then your chain ends up being all messed up towards the end of its life. And it cuts crooked, or it doesn't cut at all. Or it gets hung up halfway through a cut. Before I started this video, I already did most of this side. So I'm gonna switch. Now this is what I do to switch, okay? You don't have to take the tool off. Once it's mounted, it's mounted. You just loosen up the wing nut on the bottom and you turn it to 30 degrees on the other side, or whatever your angle is. Real simple. Oops, it's a wing nut right underneath there, as you can see. And look how I have it mounted on the bar. So you want to have this top side even with the top of your bar, not on the chain. That's how you gauge it. and you want to have it even up here as well, and kind of like the same spot. Otherwise, with it having it down, even though you're at the same angle, you're actually going to be digging down into the tooth rather than being straight across. So just a little tip when you're using the granberg. Sorry about the movement of the phone and my hand getting in the screen. Yeah, this side got real buckered up. What the heck? So I had like it like curled over this way on this one. But that's what I'll do all the way through the chain. It's a 24-inch chain. That's 84 links. That'll be a really long video, so I'm gonna stop it here. Hopefully that helps you guys out. All right, so we have a real small red oak here, but it's right along my skid trail. So I'm gonna demonstrate a little bit better, hopefully, how I do my notch. And as you can see, it kind of leans this way. I want to try and put it over here. So I'm gonna set this camera up and hopefully I can get a better angle of how I'm making my face cut and my notch for you. Let's see, we'll get these out of the way. Might have to wedge this one too. Okay. Now, a lot of you guys said that it was really hard to see because my camera wasn't pointing in the right direction. As you can see, I made my top cut first, and then I met my bottom cut with my top cut so that I don't have any bypass. And I'm gonna pull this tree because it's leaning. So I'm gonna start on that side with my bar on the back side, and I'm gonna pull it around this way. So I leave more of a hinge on this side, so my hinge will be thicker over here to help pull it in this direction. And I'm also gonna set a wedge probably here and maybe one in the back just to assist it because of the lean that it has. So hopefully you understand a little bit better when I make my face cut, how and why I do it. So remember, use your fell lines on your saw, top cut first, double check your fell line, make sure it's pointing in the direction that you want. If it's not, make sure you readjust your top cut, and then you make your bottom cut with your top cut. Make sure there's no bypass on your bottom cut in this direction. Over here, I cut this corner so that it doesn't pull a tab. And over here, make sure there's no bypass. Because what happens if there's bypass is when you bring your cut in from the back and you try to meet it with your notch, your hinge wood is actually smaller or non-existent because you have bypass in this direction. It's almost like you cut your hinge from this side. So in order to hold a nice thick hinge, probably like an inch and a half, you want to make sure there's no bypass and you connect your cuts. Pretty simple. So let me demonstrate, hopefully. Remember, I gotta wedge this thing, so it might go wrong. So I'm just gonna set the camera behind it. Obviously, we don't want it in front. Let's see what happens here. if you saw that, but I went back to go grab my other wedge right there, and it started to fall. There we go. So what happened here is that I actually bypassed my hinge because I'm not used to cutting with a 24-inch bar. So I cut it off and it sat back a little bit. That's why I threw the wedge in right here. If I had a little bit longer wedge, it would have went over real easy. I was gonna grab the bigger one, but it's decided to go. Went right where I wanted it to. Didn't hit any other trees, no collateral damage. It's a small one, but hopefully you understand a little bit better now how I make my notch and my hinge. Anyway, I'm gonna cut this. The tree's like right on the line. My phone right here is sitting probably about 10 yards from the boundary line. I got a little hole to squeeze it in, and I'm gonna try and back cut it and use my hinge just to pull it right into that hole. Let's see what we can do. Whoa. You gotta see this. This jet's making O-rings. Look at that. Poof, 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 poof. Alright, I'm gonna wedge this tree over now. Right where I want it. Let's see. Perfect.